as you probably guessed from the title. Today's video is going to be all about the latest Hermes bags that just walked the runway for spring-summer 2025. Now, today's video is not going to be an all-encompassing review of every single Hermes bag that's launching for the season, purely because I am not known for being concise. And if that was the case, we would be here all day. So I'll definitely do an update on some of the other bags closer to the launch date. But today we'll be looking at the pieces that were shown on the runway, which most of these bags are basically just new iterations of Hermes's most beloved and most classic bags, like the Birkin and the Kelly. And I have to be honest, some I like more than others. There's one bag here in particular, which I have been getting a ton of questions on, and I know I'm in the minority, but this bag to me just feels like a gimmick, and it's not something that you will see me unbox, but I know a lot of people will love it, so I have to share with you my very honest thoughts, because the one thing I can always guarantee is honesty. So if you'd like to hear my first impression of some of the newest Hermes bags that should be on shelves for spring summer, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on marching. To be honest, there were not that many new shapes and designs shown on the runway. When it comes to the overall runway show, as I mentioned, it was inspired by the Hermes workshop, which is why the collection was titled Inside the Workshop. And for a spring-summer collection, it actually included quite a few deeper, darker, richer colors, which I am not complaining about, but it was just interesting to see how much darker this collection was than what Hermes has done in previous years. And not to say that we didn't see some more lighter, neutral shades, but there were a lot of burgundies, a lot of dark and deep, rich, rusty shades, which I personally appreciate, but it's just not what I would have expected from Hermes. And when it comes to new bags and new shapes, there were really only two bags that I can think of. The rest of them were basically just new iterations of classic designs, mainly the Birkin and the Kelly bag. But let's start with two of the new bags. The first one being a brand new sort of tote, or more like a bowling bag shape, which is available in two different sizes. At this point, we do not know the official name of this bag, but it kind of reminds me of the Paris Bombay bag, which is no longer in production. As soon as I saw it, it kind of reminded me of that bag, and also the Victoria. Now, the Victoria is one of my favorite understated bags from Hermes, but I have to say that the proportions were always just slightly off for me, and I do think that this new bowling bag features proportions that are a lot more balanced and harmonious. So if you do appreciate a larger workhorse bag, this is something I would highly encourage you to put on your wish list. Maybe ask your boutique about it. Based on the runway pictures, it's going to be available, well, let me just put it this way. When I first saw the pictures and the show, I assumed that this bag would be available in 3 different sizes. But when I asked Hermes, what they told me is that it's going to be available in 2 sizes. So that's the latest I know. Apparently, it's going to be available in 2 different sizes. I would have assumed that it was going to be available in 3 based on the pictures. But this new sort of duffel or bowling bag is going to be available in 2 different sizes. On the runway, it was shown in Togo and Barenia Faubourg. We are seeing a lot of Barenia Faubourg this season, which makes a lot of sense considering that we are paying tribute to the brand's heritage. And even though Barenia Faubourg is not a heritage leather because it's not been around for that long, it is inspired by one of the brand's heritage leathers, which is of course Barenia, but Barenia Faubourg is a little bit more user-friendly considering that it's not quite as prone to scratches and marks, but you still get that rich, really dense tactile feel that you would get from Barenia with a grained finish. So this bag is going to be available in Togo and Barenia Faubourg in 2 different sizes. And if you are looking for just a grab-and-go tote bag that is exquisitely crafted, this would be a good one for you to look into. There's really not much else that I can say about it other than the fact that it features 2 longer handles, leather handles, so you can not only carry this bag as a handheld tote bag, but I think most people would be able to very comfortably put this over their shoulder, which just speaks volumes about what this bag was meant for. I do think that it is an extremely practical grab and go workhorse bag. So if this is something that would fill a gap in your collection, if you're looking for a larger tool to carry to work or perhaps an understated travel bag, this would be a great one for you to look into. And I do think that it is a more contemporary take on the Victoria. Now, speaking of classic Hermes bags, the Plume once again is seen on the runway. We have been seeing more and more of the Plume bag. Now, not much has changed about the Plume bag as far as I can tell, except that it is being offered in different sizes. This is a style that has been around since the 1960s, and the name comes from the fact that it is supposed to be a featherweight take on a leather bag. It has a very classic, almost briefcase design to it. And unlike other Hermes bags, the handles aren't directly attached to the body of the bag. Instead, the only little detail that you have on this bag is these two tiny little metal brackets that connect the bag to the leather handles. Personally, it's not my favorite bag from Hermes, but I think it can be styled really nicely. And if you're looking for a more professional bag, this is around. I don't think it's anything to go crazy for, but I thought I would mention it here in case you have always loved the look of the Plume bag. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but the Plume bag is going to be available in several different sizes. As it's been the case for many years, they always play around with the shape of the Plume bag and they offer it in several different sizes. It's around in itty bitty mini sizes all the way to larger duffel bags. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there were a couple of other newer shapes on the runway. Now, I don't think that these are pieces that will be put into mass production. I think these are going to be available, if at all. But if they're going to be available, they're only going to be around in very, very limited quantities, which are some of Hermes's horsehair bags. So at the end of the show, we saw quite a few sort of woven basket bags made of horsehair. Some of them were made of horsehair only, while others also blended horsehair with different leather details. So if you are into these sort of novelty bags, I'm going to put some pictures up here for you just so you can ask about these, but these I don't think you'll be able to get your hands on unless you shop in Paris or one of the larger flagships, because these bags really rarely, if ever, make it onto shelves. But I just wanted you to be aware of them. Now, moving on to some of the new takes on our beloved classic Hermes bags. Let's start with the Picotin, which the Picotin was back on the runway. There's really nothing new I can say about the Picotin. On the runway, it was shown in several different sizes, in size 18, 22, and 26. All of these sizes have been around previously, so there's nothing new to note here, other than the fact that the Picotins were offered in Barenia Faubourg. Once again, as I mentioned, we are getting a lot of Barenia Faubourg this season. Barenia Faubourg kind of looks similar to Togo, except Barenia Faubourg is more prone to developing something called patina. It does have a little bit more sheen to it, which is only enhanced as time goes on, and it is slightly heavier than Togo, so that's kind of what you have to keep in mind. But on the runway, we saw the Picotin in Barenia Faubourg in the color Fauve and also a band, which again are two classic colors that we have seen before. But if you are a fan of the Picotin, just know that they are not making a comeback because they never went anywhere, but they are coming back strong for the upcoming spring-summer season in one of Hermes's newer heritage leathers. And then another bag that was also shown on the runway, which there is something that in my opinion has changed about this bag, but one of my favorite newer bags from Hermes is the so-called Maximors bag. It's a piece that first walked the runway a couple of years ago, and I have been obsessed with it ever since. The Maximors is a really small, petite, cylindrical bag that kind of reminds me of a vintage pencil case. But what makes this bag incredibly special, other than the shape, is the jewel-like horsebit inspired handle, which honestly makes this bag look and feel like a piece of art. Now, it's not something that I would personally add to my collection, but it is a piece I have been admiring from afar for years at this point. I do think that it is one of the most divine head-turning pieces that Hermes has done in a really long time. I love how they draw inspiration from their heritage, but this bag is done in a really just refined and elegant fashion. This bag is exclusively offered in Swift in a handful of more neutral shades. Not that this bag has never been around in some more vibrant colors, but I do think you see this bag a lot more in neutral colors and some seasonal shades, always in Swift. And previously this bag was available with a removable, very thin but adjustable shoulder strap. But to me it seems that for the upcoming spring summer season they are actually updating the shoulder strap and they're making it slightly thicker, which I personally think is a great decision, because that really thin shoulder strap didn't really go well with how dense and just well put together the original Maximor bag felt. So if you have always loved the idea of the Maximor bag, keep in mind that it is not going anywhere, which I am not complaining about. I cannot wait to see more and more of it. And even though it has been around for a couple of years, I don't think it has become overdone, which is probably because of the price. So this bag is just under $7,000 currently. I assume by the time spring summer 2025 rolls around, it is going to be slightly more expensive, but it is definitely not for the faint of heart. It is in a very similar price range as a smaller Kelly or a smaller Birkin bag, which I understand why that is, but I feel like a lot of people would not be able to justify the price on a bag that's not a Birkin or a Kelly, which to each their own. But I think if you are an Hermes collector or if you have a true appreciation for the brand, this would be an incredible piece to add to your collection, not to mention that it would add a completely different facet to your collection than a Birkin or a Kelly would. So I was very pleased to see that this bag is sticking around. If you own the Maximor bag, would you mind letting us know your experience in the comment section? I would love to hear your thoughts and your first-hand experience, because obviously it's not a bag that I own. I have played around with it several times. I've seen it up close and personal, but I don't own this bag, and actually none of my friends do either. So I would love to hear what your experience has been like as the owner of one of these creations. I would love to know your experience and your thoughts after using this bag. But to me, I just love the idea of it, and I think it would add a very unique facet to your collection if you are a lover of mini bags. Now, without further ado, let's move on to some of the new takes on the holy trinity of Hermes bags, so the Birkin, the Kelly, and the Constance, even though we will not be looking at any Constance bags in today's video. But when it comes to the Kelly, there were two Kelly bags that we saw on the runway, a larger Kelly bag in heritage leather, and what made this interesting, it was just a regular Kelly bag in cellier structure. I do think it was in size 35, but what made this bag interesting is the adjustable shoulder strap, because this Kelly bag came with a wider canvas strap that was actually adjustable. We are seeing more and more adjustable straps from Hermes, which I think is going to make a lot of people happy. We have been begging Hermes to come out with some adjustable shoulder straps. For fall winter, we are getting a mini Kelly with an adjustable shoulder strap, so I was very happy to see now a Kelly bag being offered with a new style of strap, which I do think is going to be offered with the Kelly bag. It didn't seem like something that you would have to buy separately. I was under the impression that it was something that was going to come with this specific Kelly bag. So if you are into a larger Kelly bag, something that feels like a substantial piece, this would be a good one for you to check out. And then there was also a smaller Kelly bag on the runway, which might not appear as anything interesting, but what made this Kelly bag special is that it was in cellier structure, but it was offered in Togo leather, which is incredibly rare. It has been done before. When it comes to the Kelly Lettre line, it's something that that's the first line that Hermes played around with in Togo in a cellier structure. And then I believe there were a couple of special order seasons when you could place an order for a cellier bag in Togo, but it's not something that Hermes does often. So seeing this piece on the runway indicates that this is something that we might start seeing more of, which, you know, if you love the look of Togo and Kelly cellier bags, then this is kind of a match made in heaven. Personally, it's not my favorite combinations just because I associate Togo bags with a more slouchy, more relaxed shape, whereas the Kelly bag in Cellier is the exact opposite. But if you like this combination, just know that it should be around for spring summer 2025. And then moving on to the newest takes on the Birkin, the shoulder Birkin made another appearance on the runway, this time in size 29 in Barenia Faubourg. So it's been almost a year since Hermes announced that the shoulder Birkin is making a comeback after a decade-long hiatus, because this is a style that was first introduced in 2004 under Jean-Paul Gaultier's creative direction, and it was around for 8 or 9 years, quite a few seasons in different sizes and different iterations actually, because we are currently on the 3rd edition of the shoulder Birkin. The first shoulder Birkins were offered in size 40 and 42, and the hardware on those bags was a lot more comparable to the hardware on the HAC than the hardware of the Birkin. Then they refined the hardware and they made it a lot more sleek and a lot more minimal. And then the current edition of the shoulder Birkin is available in smaller sizes, and it is a lot more petite, and the hardware is identical to the ones that you'll find on the Birkin. So it is just a little bit more sleek and refined. And if you do love the idea of the shoulder Birkin, I think you will be happy to hear that it is staying around for spring summer, and it's not only going to be available in canvas, denim, and regular leathers, but also in Barenia Faubourg in the color Fauve. And it is certainly a bag that's growing on me. I was never the biggest fan of the larger shoulder Birkins. They just always felt like an unfinished bag to me. I always said this, but to me they just felt like an HAC that was chopped in half. But seeing it in smaller sizes and seeing them being styled in different ways, they are very slowly growing on me. They're still not my favorite bags, but if you do love the idea of a Birkin bag that you can comfortably put over your shoulder, I mean, this bag is not going anywhere. And then last but not least, let's talk about the bag that I have been getting DMs on, which, to be really honest with you, I cannot believe that we are wasting our breath and time reviewing this bag, because it is just one of the gimmicks in my opinion, which is the new inside out or upside out Birkin, whatever you want to call it. The official name is the Birkin à l'Inverse, which in my opinion is just a lazy, predictable, and kind of useless design that really adds no value to your life or your wardrobe. We've seen Hermes play around with removable flaps. They have put pockets on the outside of the Birkin. They tried selling pockets separately. None of those really stuck, so I don't see why this one would. But I know that people are already going crazy for this new upside out or inside out Birkin, whatever you want to call it. If you have not seen this bag, it's going to be available in size 35 in a mix of canvas and leather. On the runway, it was shown in Swift, Togo, and again, Barenia Faubourg in 2 different colors for the canvas. And basically imagine a Birkin bag being turned inside out. So you will have the zip pocket on the outside. The flap is also on the outside, but instead of the pocket going on the back, it is meant to be carried on the front. And what's interesting is that the twist closure and the little shelves that the sangos sit on remain on the bag, except they are now on the inside, which might seem like an ingenious idea. It is going to be a recipe for disaster if you actually want to use these bags, because I can tell you that they will pull on every single one of your knits, and they'll either scratch your skin or scratch your jewelry as you reach in and out of these bags. I know that people have been going crazy for these bags, but I just really don't get it. To me, it is just incredibly lazy. I mean, how many more silly iterations can we get on the same bag? To me, it just makes no sense. And I get it, it was styled in a really fun way on the runway, so obviously you can carry this bag as a handheld bag, as you can't do that with every single Birkin bag, considering that they feature 2 top handles. But the way it was styled on the runway is that the models actually carried these back flat handheld, which looked incredible, don't get me wrong, but I can tell you that you're not going to carry a Birkin 35 that way, because if you fold the back flat, first of all, it's going to lose its shape really quickly, which I don't think you want to do to a bag that's probably going to set you back over $14,000. Not to mention that if you fold the back completely flat, you're not going to be able to fit anything into them. So are you really just carrying these as arm candy? In which case, go for it, but no one's going to carry these bags handheld. I get the idea, I get the styling, it looks incredibly aesthetic, but it is just not practical. Now, I'm not sure if you can actually turn these bags inside. Well, they're inside out now, so I wonder if you can reverse them and actually have these details on the outside and carry these bags as an actual Birkin, in which case, sure, go for it. The fact that they are reversible makes them quite cool, but if they can only be carried as they were seen on the runway, I really would not waste your money on it unless you are an avid Hermes collector and you're really hunting for these new novelty pieces, because I just don't think that it is a user-friendly piece to have in your collection. We have seen brands do these sort of deconstructed takes on their most iconic pieces. The Road did that a couple of years ago with the Margot bag, where it had these threads and different details hanging out of the bag, which I thought was done in a really aesthetically pleasing fashion. Whereas when it comes to this bag, I just think it looks unfinished. You know, it's like you can buy a t-shirt and wear it inside out, sure, but do you want to wear a t-shirt inside out? Not really. So why would you want to do that with a Birkin? I just don't get it. To me, it looks kind of cheesy and gimmicky, really boring and lazy, and I would much prefer if Hermes invested a little bit more time and effort into perfecting the designs that they already have, or coming out with some more fresh and innovative designs and creations, because this to me is really just not it. And I'm sure I am going to be in the minority. I have no doubt that people are going to be going crazy for these and say that the craftsmanship is unique and it's exquisite, but in my opinion, it just kind of looks silly. But I cannot wait to hear your thoughts in the comment section on these bags, especially when it comes to the inside out, upside down, whatever you want to call it, Birkin. I don't even care to learn its proper name, because it is just a waste of my mental capacity and a waste of your time. But let me know what you think. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts and your review on these bags. I hope you enjoyed today's little roundup of some of the new Hermes bags that are launching for spring summer 2025. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I really appreciate you being here and watching, and I cannot wait to see you back here with a new video really, really soon.